Okay, so this is the next video in our continuation of our AWS series. So in the last video, what we have seen the S3 overview. So we created some bucket in the last video. We put some file, and when we try to access the file, so we could see two options. One is there is a like direct open button, and there is a URL. So when we click on the open button, we are able to see the file. But when we uh, view the file using the HTTP URL, we are getting access denied, because when we click on the open button, automatically our credentials, or you can say a security token, are get embedded into the URL, and we are the owner, so that's why we are able to see that. But when we are using the HTTPS URL, so there is no security token in that URL. So it means like some anonymous user is trying to access the files, and that's why we are getting the access denied. But let's pause. Okay, so now how to give the access to the bucket? So that's come under the bucket policy. So policy is basically, you can say, the permissions, or you can say security permissions. We have to update the bucket policies. So there are two types of permissions. One is the user based and one is the resource based. Just ignore these two terms for the time being, because it might be confusing. So let's first cover the four scenarios. So what are the four scenarios which could be possible? So let's suppose you created the bucket and you put some file into that bucket. Now, what are the four users who can access, who want your access to the files? So one is the general public users. So it could be anonymous user who want to read my file from the S3 buckets. All right. So one is this user. The another is the IAM user. IAM user means the user who has the account in the AWS, and that user want to read the files from the S3 bucket. And the IAM user has account. IAM user has account in the same like AWS account, which means like we if you go to the console, so here we have the account number, right? So here the AWS account. So within this account, we have created the bucket, or maybe within this account we have created the user, some user, and that user want to access this S3 files. So one condition is this. Another other condition is, so there could be some different account. So maybe it's your account, like you have created your own AWS account. So it's your account, and you have created one more user, and now you want to access the files from my S3 buckets. So it means, so I am user of AWS account, but that is a different account from the S3. So that user wants the read access my S3 bucket. The other is the EC2 instance. So that could be there is a EC2 service. Now it's not the IAM user, it's not the general user, it's the EC2 service. So we are running some scripts within the EC2, and that scripts want to read the file from the S3 bucket. So basically EC2 is running that script. Now EC2 wants the access. EC2 means you basically a virtual machine. So virtual machine wants the access, read access, or any write access for the S3 files. So these are the four scenario. So in this four scenario, like what should we actually do? So we will see that. So first the case one. So in the case one, when the general public wants the read access for the S3 bucket. Okay, before that, so let's do one thing. Let's quickly create a bucket and put some object. So we will go to the S3, and we will create a bucket. Let's create a bucket. And I am creating the bucket in the, let's create in the EU West 2 London region, and that's it. And I right now block all public access, so it is blocked for the all public, and right, and everything else. So let me add the tag as well. So owner tag is not important, but it's a generally like a good habit to add the tags. Okay, so just create the bucket. So bucket has been created. If I open the, sorry, let me go to the buckets. So bucket has been created. Now the access bucket and the objects are not public. Even the bucket is not public. Also the objects within the bucket are not public. So if you open the bucket and try to upload any object. So let me upload add files and try go to the I have some image. You can download an image from the Google. So I have downloaded the image for the Indian flag. All right. So image has been uploaded. So let's click on the upload. So the file has been uploaded. So let me close this. So now if I go to the buckets and if I open the bucket, now object, there is a one object. So this is the one object which we recently uploaded. I click on it. So if I click on this open button, all right, I'm able to see the flag because the automatically security token has been embedded into the URL. All right. But if I click this URL, if I copy the URL and try to access it, it is giving me the error access denied because it says because this URL like anyone can access. All right. It doesn't tell to the AWS like which user is trying to access the S3 object. So AWS is assuming it is some anonymous user who want the access for this particular file, and we have given the we are blocking the public access. So which is our first scenario. So in first scenario, any public general user if want to access, so this is the basically general user. So if there is any user, he or she want to access my S3 bucket file, so I will just provide this URL and we will I will like tell him, okay, you can just like browse this URL and you will able to view the files. All right. So this is our first scenario. So the general publics or anonymous user want to read my S3 files. So this is the general user. So right. So I can't give the permission, I can't attach the permission to the user because this is a general user. This user even doesn't exist in the AWS database. So what I have to do is I have to attach some permission on the S3 bucket itself, right? So as it is a general public, it doesn't have any AWS account because it is general public. It is not the IAM user. IAM user is those users who have the AWS account. This is a general public who doesn't have any AWS account. So if that person doesn't have the AWS account, I can't attach any policy with that person, right? So if we have to give the access, so we have to attach the policy with the S3 only, right? So we have to attach the policy with the S3 and we have to give the public allow access. So that's why there are two policies. One is the user-based policy and one is the resource-based policy. So in the case one, so it's come under the resource-based policy because we are attaching the permission directly to the resource because we can't attach permission to the user because user doesn't exist in the AWS database. So how we can like attach the permission to the user? We can attach the permission or you can say policy with the resource or here resource is S3. All right. Okay. So that is the resource based policy. What is the second scenario? So second scenario is let's suppose one I have created one IAM user which has within the same account. So within this account only, I have created the IAM user, and that user will like logged in with his own credential. So right now, like IAM user is Manchu Nankana. So let's say I have created using the root credentials. I created one more IAM user, maybe ABCDEF, any user, and that user will logged in with their on the same account but with their own credential. So one account could be many IAM user. So that user will logged in with this into the same account but with different credential, and that user want to access my S3 bucket. So that is the IAM user. So in that case, if that user exists in my AWS database, I will not attach the policy with the S3. I will directly attach the policy with the IAM user. So that comes under the user-based policy. That come under the user-based policy where we are attaching the policy with the user. Here we are attaching the policy with the resource because this is the general public. The general public doesn't exist into the AWS database. So that's why we have to attach the policy with the resource only. Here this is the IAM user and IAM user in our account only, same account on which the S3 exists. So this is so we can attach the permission to the IAM user. Okay, what is the scenario third? So scenario third is that is also the IAM user. IAM user is the user that that has the data in the AWS database, but it is a different account. The account itself is the different. So maybe you have created a new AWS account from your credit card or debit card. So you will get a different account ID, and you have created some your multiple IAM user within that account, and that IAM user want access for my S3 bucket, which is in the different account. So I can't give the access to this IAM user. I can't attach the policy to this IAM user, because if I have to attach the policy to the IAM user, I I should have access to the account in which this IAM user exists. But this is your account. This is not my account. So in that case, I have only one option left. That is, I have to attach the policy with the S3 bucket only. So that is again the resource. So we have to attach the policy with the S3 bucket. Okay. What is the case 4? So in case 4, so this is basically the cross account. So there is a one account, there is another account, and then second account wants the access to the buckets which exist in the first account. So that's common the cross account. Okay, so we have to give the allow access to the cross account rather than the public. Okay, the case 4 is the we have the EC2 instance, and that wants the read access to the S3 bucket, and EC2 instance exists in my account, right? So what could be the so EC2 instance exists in my account, but it is not a user. But we have the other option available. So what we can do is we can create a EC2 instance role. We can attach the policy with that role, and then we will attach that role with that particular EC2 instance, and then automatically the particular EC2 has the access to the S3 policies, S3 object. So we don't have to attach the anything with the S3. But when we say policy, what exactly is policy? So policy is basically, you can say, a JSON document. JSON document generally have the key and the value. So it is a kind of a JSON document. In the JSON document, we will define some key value pair, and what we will define. So we define first is the effect. So whether we want to give the access or whether we want to deny the access. Okay, so we will define whether it's allow access or deny access. Okay, second thing is action. If we are giving the access to any user, so what action that user can perform, whether he can delete the files, modify the file, read the file, only list the file, get the file. So what action he can perform. So that also we have to define under the permission policy. And the resource. So resource come like on which resource we are trying to attaching this policy. So that is the Amazon S3. Okay. Other is the principal. So who will get the access? So principal is the optional field, and this will come only when we are applying the resource based policy. Basically, when we are attaching the policy with the S3, then we have to mention principal as well. Principal means like who wants the access, right? But when we attach the policy with the IAM user, then there is no need to mention the principal key field, because we already attached the policy with the IAM user itself. Then why we need again the principal who wants the access? When we already attach the policy with the IAM user, then there is no need for the policy field. Okay, so there is a one document how the policy looks like. So let's go through the document. So it is the IAM JSON policy document. It has basically, so I will cover a few of things as well. So what are those things? So, but first let's do case 1. So in the case 1, right now the general public doesn't have access to the my objects which I just uploaded. So in the case 1, what I have to do is I can't attach the policy with the general user because that user doesn't exist in my database. So I have to attach the policy. A policy is a basic kind of a JSON document in which I define something, and I have to attach that policy with the S3 only. Okay, so go to the S3. Now we could see there is a one tag permission. So click on the permissions. So under the permission, so you could see policy option, bucket policy. Right. So here we have to attach and we have to give the public access because this is the general public. And here, if you read here, public access is blocked because block policy access settings are turned on for this project. So if you scroll above, we have blocked all the public access. So first you click on the edit and off this block thing. So uncheck it and save the changes and confirm it. So we have like now like the user can access, but we have just block like off the public access. It doesn't mean that the like any public can access. If I still try to access, like it will not like able to access because there is no policy attached. So how the bucket policy know to which user I have to like, only the policy will decide. So this is just the option, because otherwise the policy will not even work. Even if we give the public access, still it will not work because we have this flag set. So that's why we have to off that particular flag. So now under the bucket policy, we have to write something here into the JSON format. So if you click on the edit, now you have the two options. One is the policy example, one is the policy generator. If you click on the policy example, so one official documentation is open, docs.aws.amazon.com. So they have provided a few examples like which thing you have to use when, but we are not going to copy these examples. So just close it. So one is the policy generator. So click on the policy generator. And if you like go back to the tab one, so here you could see the version. So right now they are using the version 17.10.2012. So if you go to the official documentation, there are basically two version of the our like policy. So one is this 1710-2012, which is the current and the latest version, and one is the 1710-2008. So one is the 2008 version, one is the 2012 version. So the latest version is this one, and the old version is this one. So if we have to attach the policy, you have to always use this version only, so that like it should like see okay which version I am using. Okay. So that's why we have the version, but we have to click on the policy generator and one more tab will be open. So it's basically a UI which automatically generates the JSON for us. So we don't need to manually write this. If you want to write, so we can write as well. So, but first go like access this policy generator UI. So, okay, select the type of policy. So type of policy S3 bucket policy, because we want to attach the policy with the S3 bucket. Okay, effect is allow or deny. So whether we want to allow the public access or any user access or deny. So we want allow. Principal means who wants access. So all the public user, all means just give the star. Okay. Now the AWS service is the Amazon S3. Now the action, what action the public user can perform. So I want only get object. So if you scroll down, there is a get object function, get object. So I want only this action. So I have selected only one action. Now the resource ARN, Amazon resource name. So on which resource name? So this is the ARN. If you go to the tab one, this is the ARN. Just copy this tag and go to the ARN. I have to paste that, but this will not work because I have to give the slash and I have to give the star as well. Why I am giving the slash and the star? Because if you see the action, within the action, I have selected get object. So objects are residing inside the bucket. So that's why I have to give slash and then star, because this is the bucket only. This is the bucket ARN. We are not performing any action on the bucket. If I have to perform any action on the bucket, so if action is like delete bucket, then I don't have to give slash and the star, but the action is get object. So action is on the object. So where the object reside? Object is reside inside the bucket. So the ARN is slash and the star. So click on the add statement and generate policy. So the policy is generated. Just copy it and go to the tab one and delete everything and paste it. So here we are using the version, the latest version 17.2012 statement. There is a statement ID. So statement ID should be unique. Action. What action we want to perform? S3 object. Effect is allow or deny. Allow. Resource name is on this resource. slash star, because this is the get object, so it should not be on the bucket, it should be on the object, and object resides in the bucket, so that's why you have to give the slash and the star. And principal means like who want the access, so it's the general user, so all the general users, so that's why we give the star. Okay, now scroll down, just click on the save changes. So now the changes has been saved. Now the access is public. So if you go to the buckets, so earlier we are able to see bucket and objects are not public or access. So now we see public. And if you try to access our same URL, so now I am able to see the image. So now the public users are able to see the my S3 objects. Okay, so we have covered the case one. So in the case one, our general public wants the access for my S3 bucket. So for the general public, I can't attach the users policy. Users policy can be attached only to those users who resides in the AWS. But this is the general public. General public, it is not necessary that the general public who want my access to the S3 bucket that should create the account. No, the general public could be any public. All right, so if there is any public, I can't attach the policy with the public, so there is only one option left. I have to attach the policy with the S3. So I have attached the policy with the S3. And what policy is just basically a document. So if you click on the S3 bucket, go to the permission. Now under the policy tab, you could see the policy bucket policy. Earlier we were not able to see, now we have attached, now we are able to see. So we able to see, okay, it's the allow on the whole user, and the user what action can perform, that is the set object, and on which resource, that is the bucket, and all objects. So whatever the objects we will put, it is on the, it will applicable on all objects. We give the star. So that's it. So we have covered the like bucket policy, how to attach the bucket policy, and what are the different types of the bucket policy, and what are the different case scenarios. In practical, we have done the scenario number one. So it has like variable statement ID, evac principal, action, resource. The resource is on which resource, action is which action we want to perform, principal is who, effect is allow or deny, statement ID, and version is like there are two versions. We have to use the always the latest version. So you can go through like all these things: ID, statement, SID, effect, principal, not principal, action, not action. So you can like go all these fields, what actually they did. So if you click on the effect, so they tell, okay, effect could be allow, effect could be deny, right? So you can like read about it. Okay, so yeah, so that, so okay, let me do one thing. So let me clear of the things. So just delete everything. So permanently delete. So first delete the objects. Now I will delete the bucket as well. Click on the bucket, delete. Delete bucket. So now we have cleared the resources as well. So that's it. Thank you.